This year, the age of the youngest tactical aircraft, which are part of the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, reaches the 30th anniversary of their operation. During the years of independence of Ukraine, not a single new or even used tactical aviation unit was purchased and put into service with its Air Force, although the repair and modernization of such aircraft by Ukrainian enterprises are carried out regularly. We are talking about 4 types of aircraft that Ukraine inherited from the Soviet past. These are various modifications of the MiG-29 and Su-27 multipurpose fighters, the Su-24M frontline bomber, and the Su-25 attack aircraft. In order to stop the moral and physical aging of the Ukrainian military aviation to prevent the degradation of the high-tech branch of the armed forces, the urgent issue of radical re-equipment of the tactical aviation of the Air Force with new generation aircraft, 4++, based on real capabilities, and 5th, based on ambitious plans for the next 15 to 20 years. Ukraine has an aviation country and one of the world leaders in passenger, transport, and military transport aircraft construction, has never specialized in the creation and production of fighter, bomber, and attack aircraft. Therefore, today the question arose of the geopolitical, strategic, and military technical choice of a foreign manufacturer and a type of aircraft, as well as the allocation of large-scale state funding with the attraction of loans from foreign partners with government guarantees. Actually, this is provided for in the Vision of the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine 2035, adopted in May 2020. The strategic document was developed on the basis of the Vision of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and aims to determine rational ways for the development of military aviation until 2035. The formation of initial data for the state program for the development of the Armed Forces of Ukraine until 2025, the Air Force Development Program, and other defense planning documents. During the first preparatory stage of the implementation of the vision, which will last until 2025, an international tender should be held in 2021 to 2022, and a contract for the purchase of a multi-role fighter should be signed. Its limited deliveries with a total of up to 6 to 12 units should begin in 2023 to 2025 to conduct trial operation, study the forms and methods of application, and organize personnel training. The main goal of the second executive stage until 2030 is the transition to the planned re-equipment of tactical aviation, which will stop the degradation of the Air Force's capabilities. Regular deliveries of new combat aviation equipment, 8 to 12 multi-purpose aircraft annually, should be arranged with the simultaneous withdrawal of obsolete models from the combat units, getting rid of certain types of aviation. By 2030, at least 2 tactical aviation brigades must be fully equipped with new aircraft and must acquire full combat operational capabilities. In addition, during this period, the re-equipment of transport and special aviation should also begin, 1 to 2 units annually. The deployment of new unmanned aviation units to replace attack, bomber, and reconnaissance aircraft. According to calculations by Air Force Command experts, the estimated need for resources to re-equip tactical aircraft alone is about UAH 200 billion, that is, about 6.5 billion euros, or $7 billion at the current exchange rate. France offers Ukraine the most expensive Rafale. Discussions about the choice of the supplier country and the type of new aircraft have been going on in Ukraine for more than 10 years, and today they are becoming especially acute and relevant. It will be a very difficult decision. It includes geopolitical, military strategic, military technical, and of course, financial factors. As is known from public statements by representatives of the Air Force Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the American F-16 Block 7072 multifunctional fighter from Lockheed Martin and the Swedish Saab JAS-39E F Gripen are considered among the best options. But it seems that other powerful world players may join the fight for Ukrainian military aviation. We are talking about the French aerospace giant Dassault Aviation, which can offer the Rafale multifunctional fighter, as well as the American Boeing with its FA-18 Super Hornet. Analysis of each of these types of aircraft in terms of combat characteristics, price, including unit cost, operation, training of pilots and maintenance personnel, supply of weapons and ammunition, as well as the possibility of production and maintenance in Ukraine, and the credit policy of governments is a problem for another analytical study. In short, for a general understanding, the F-16 and JAS-39 are light fighters equipped with a single engine, similar in class to the MiG-29, and the Rafale and the F-A-18 are heavy multi-role fighters with 2 engines. Actually, all modern fighters of the 4+, 4++, and 5th generations are multifunctional, high-precise, stealthy, can perform the functions of interceptors, bombers, attack aircraft, reconnaissance aircraft, and combat training aircraft in their various modifications. The price is also different, which also depends on many factors. Among the 4 aircraft mentioned here, the cheapest one is the JAS-39EF, worth 25 to 50 million euros. By the way, Sweden, which produces the JAS-39 fighter, in many respects, and most importantly in terms of price, it can be a completely balanced option for Ukraine, is not a member of NATO, but this country is steadily politically supporting Ukraine in the European Union and in friendly and partner relations. However, back to the possible French option. Indeed, Rafale, whose cost ranges from 150 to 260 million euros, is the most expensive fighter in Europe and in the world in its heavy class. But this is taking into account all the strategic stuffing that can be provided for in the contract of intergovernmental cooperation in the future for at least several decades. These figures are approximate and reflect only the general trend. According to French media, the issue of possible sale of Rafale fighters will be one of the main items on the agenda of the visit of French President Emmanuel Macron to Ukraine, which is scheduled for the first half of this year. The fact that Intelligence Online, whose publication are mainly available by subscription, published material about French aviation ambitions in Ukraine in the public domain, indicates that official Paris is interested in such publicity and has joined the competition to occupy this promising niche in Eastern Europe. At this stage, it is known that the French government is ready to guarantee the provision of a loan of 1.5 billion euros to Ukraine for the purchase of fighter jets, which will provide financial coverage for 85% of the contract value. According to a rough estimate, based on the data available today and the vision of the Ukrainian side regarding the rearmament of the tactical aviation of the Air Force, Ukraine can order about 45 new Rafale fighters from France, if the cost is no more than 150 million euros per unit. At the same time, the strategic vision of the Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine provides for the presence of 2035 in 4 tactical aviation brigades, which will be armed with 72 to 108 4++ generation aircraft, and this is under ideal conditions of sufficient and timely financing of the rearmament program. Washington has a number of geopolitical advantages in relations with Kiev. The United States is Ukraine's largest partner, which annually provides the country with large-scale military technical assistance, including lethal weapons. This year, such assistance provides for $250 million in the U.S. defense budget. Similar volumes were allocated in previous years. The decision on this was made by the American side of the context of an escalation of armed confrontation during the war unleashed by Russia against Ukraine, when other Western countries refrained from providing Kiev with lethal weapons so as not to irritate the aggressor. Another geopolitical trump card Washington has over its competitors is its steady support for Ukraine's Euro-Atlantic prospects, that is, the country's entry into NATO. Without a doubt, Washington even has a moral advantage over competitors and partners in promoting its interests in the field of military aviation for Ukraine. The United States is eager and ready to expand the presence of its weapons and military equipment in Eastern Europe, on the eastern flank of the Euro-Atlantic. This will also be another strong signal to an aggressive Russia from Ukraine's Western partners. However, the values of partnership and alliance always have other dimensions. Fierce competition in the global arms market, corruption, financial capabilities of clients, the influence of major politicians and ubiquitous lobbyists, the activities of special services. These are the indispensable factors that today determine which aircraft will guard the peaceful skies of Ukraine.